Welcome back to Primetime News, and a special welcome if you're watching online at onespotmedia.com. Day one of the reopening of the borders to non-nationals was marred by flight delays at the Sangster International Airport. Nonetheless, Jamaicans who arrived on the flight were happy to be back on local soil. The first flight touched down this afternoon with health and tourism officials overseeing the process. Tourism Minister EDMUND Bartlett calls it a soft reopening of the tourism industry and the continued revival of the economy. With the ports, hotels, and all entertainment venues being closed because of the coronavirus health threat, many questioned the reopening to tourists, especially from the United States, the country hardest hit by the pandemic. However, Mr. Bartlett insists that the move was carefully guided by professionals.
The Ministry of Health has been the backbone of this whole effort. It is through their continued vigilance and their support in terms of helping us to craft and understand what are the critical touch points.
Our health protocols have been put in place, working closely with tourism. We've spent the better part of the last number of days working out the logistics here on the ground at the airport, working with a range of agencies and, of course, the hotels, the tour operators.
The first flight to Jamaica should have arrived at 11 a.m. However, that was delayed. This American Airlines flight from Miami, Florida, was scheduled to arrive at the Sangster International Airport in Montego Bay at 11:30. It touched down at 11:40, with the 180 passengers, mostly Jamaicans, only too happy to be back home. They then went through the new airport screening process. Tourists were separated from returning residents. The JAM COVID approval for travel was inspected, and one by one, they went through temperature checks, sanitization, and COVID-19 tests. Despite the hassle of this new norm, returning Jamaicans like Harry Tratkan were elated to be home at last. Harry says, comparatively speaking, leaving the U.S. was simple.
The process was good. We just bored. They didn't even take temperature on the coming in. Just bored. We just had to show them the paper to allow us to come in.
This is a very dynamic process, and the process is subject to review almost daily. There's a subcommittee of cabinet chaired by the Prime Minister, which involved myself and Minister Bartlett. And we will review today very carefully, and then in the days to come, and then we will determine exactly what the next step will be. So I'm not going to commit one way or the other. As of now, we have not charged anyone. The government has taken on the responsibility.
The workers and support service providers were also pleased with the restart of the industry. Jamaicans Sean Nelson and Bethoya Powell piloted the flight. They said it was a pleasure for them to be back home.
It's also a pleasure because we're able to get our Jamaicans back to Jamaica, inaugural flight back to Jamaica, and try to restart the country, try to get things going.
Now, the authorities are expressing satisfaction with the work done at the ports of entry in preparation for Phase 2 of the reopening of Jamaica to travel. The leadership of Norman Manley International Airport in Kingston said it has put in place several measures to ensure the safety of travelers and staff. Among the changes is a restriction on non-travelers going into some areas. The airport is expected to see an increase in the number of arrivals and departures following today's reopening of the airport to international travelers.
Sanitation stations, about 25 different points that you can sanitize your hands before and after, for example, the screening process. That's very important. You will see that in the entrance of the terminal building, we are encouraging people that only passengers go inside the building and the relatives wait outside. That have the purpose to guarantee social distancing between our users. We also do a totally reconfiguration of the seating, so you will see that the configuration is going to help us and to help our passengers to have 6 feet distance between each other.
Now, Tourism Minister EDMUND Bartlett toured the facility over the weekend. He said the amount of work done should encourage even those with doubts about the country's capacity to reopen in a safe way.
Effort, however, is a beginning, because this is a phase opening, and it means that the density, both in terms of the arrangements of airlines as well as in the field, is going to be far less than it was when things were going briskly and in large numbers. So indicate that what we need to do is to look at how we manage small areas and to use that same principle in terms of the managing bigger area.